Arirang News at 10 on this Tuesday, July the 10th. Coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min, and these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. Striking business deals in India, South Korean President Moon Jae-in and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launch a Samsung factory, dubbed the world's largest mobile factory. It promises to churn out jobs and economic benefits while bringing the two Asian powerhouses closer together. Trying to dull rising criticism at home, U.S. President Donald Trump says he's confident leader Kim Jong-un will actually denuclearize, honoring the contract signed between the two leaders last month. A string of resignations in the British government over Brexit discord, putting Prime Minister Theresa May in a difficult position. Is she going to pay the ultimate political price? Our starting point this morning in India. Economic issues dominated day two of President Moon Jae-in's four-day state visit to the South Asian country. President Moon and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi celebrated the construction of Samsung's largest smartphone manufacturing plant in the world. Our Moon Gun-young, traveling with the president, reports from New Delhi.
It's not every day that you bump into state leaders on your subway commute home. But commuters in India were in for a pleasant surprise when they saw South Korean President Moon Jae-in and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on their way to the outskirts of New Delhi to inaugurate Samsung's new mobile phone manufacturing plant, the biggest in the world. Congratulating the South Korean tech giant to better position itself in competing with rivals such as China's Xiaomi in the world's fastest-growing mobile phone market, President Moon noted the factory alone will create 2,000 jobs and even more at its 50-plus suppliers in India.
노이다 공장에서 생산된 스마트폰이 중동, 아프리카 등 제3국 수출로 이어져 양국 간 경제 협력의 결실이 더욱 커지길 기대합니다. 오늘 준공한 노이다 공장이 인도와 한국 간 상생 협력의 상징이 될 수 있도록 한국 정부도 최선을 다해 뒷받침하겠습니다.
I often state that in India there is hardly a middle-class home where you won't find a product manufactured in South Korea. This 50 billion rupee investment will not only strengthen Samsung's business ties in India, it will also play a key role in India-South Korea relations.
Earlier in the day, as the South Korean president addressed some 400 business leaders from the two countries, Mr. Moon called for an early conclusion of the ongoing negotiations aimed at upgrading their comprehensive economic partnership agreement. With the new Samsung unit now operational, the Noida plant is expected to roll out nearly 120 million new mobile phones per year made in India. But that economic partnership between the two countries is just about to get a lot more comprehensive when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and South Korean President Moon Jae-in sit down for a bilateral summit on the third day of his four-day state visit. Traveling with the South Korean President, Moon Gun-young, Arirang News, New Delhi.
Staying with that story, President Moon's second day in India also included a visit to a museum with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India's Prime Minister also displayed his hospitality by ordering a special traditional dance to be performed at the dinner President Moon held with some of the local Korean residents. Our Hwang Ho-jun reports.
They followed Gandhi's last footsteps before he was assassinated, all the way to the monument, and paid a floral tribute. On Monday, President Moon Jae-in and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Gandhi Smriti Museum, which is where Mahatma Gandhi, also known as the father of the nation, spent the last years of his life. Visiting the museum was one way for the South Korean president to express his respect for Gandhi, a spiritual leader and a symbolic figure of the Indian independence movement.
But it was also a nod to his 3P Plus policy, a future-oriented partnership with India by focusing on people, mutual prosperity, and peace, especially promoting cultural exchange among the peoples himself. And this even more highlighted during his dinner with local Korean residents.
A traditional Indian dance was performed at the dinner meeting depicting the love story of King Kimsuro of Korea's ancient Gaya kingdom, who married a princess from the Indian kingdom of Ayutthaya, who became Queen He. The dance was ordered to be choreographed by the Indian Prime Minister himself. President Moon expressed his appreciation for Prime Minister Modi and India's warm welcome. He said India's hospitality was not just for himself, but for the whole of South Korea, as this whole New Delhi relationship has become significant to both countries.
지금 한국과 인도는 양국의 관계를 발전시킬 절호의 기회를 맞고 있습니다. 인도와 우리는 더 자주, 더 가까이 만날 것입니다.
President Moon also thanked the local Koreans for their efforts to enhance the status of South Korea in India and further encouraged them to serve as a bridge between the two countries.
The fact that Prime Minister Modi will have accompanied President Moon to 11 different events by the end of his 4-day stay in India shows that the two leaders are determined to navigate the 21st century as partners not only in economics, but in various aspects in South Korea-India relationship. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News, New Delhi.
Shifting focus, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed his confidence in North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to abide by the denuclearization contract signed last month between the two leaders. Now, the message out of the White House comes after the first high-level meeting between the two countries following the June 12th summit in Singapore. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
President Trump says he believes North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will honor the denuclearization deal they inked in Singapore last month. Trump's tweet on Monday was his first response following U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to Pyongyang late last week, where he met with senior North Korean official Kim Yong-chol. The message is being interpreted to be a semi-threatening one to the North's leader to live up to their denuclearization agreement. The tweet comes amid criticism in the U.S. that the first high-level meeting between the two countries since Singapore failed to bring about any substantial results. Critics of the Trump administration accuse it of simply making concessions to the North, including the halt in joint military drills with South Korea, while gaining nothing from its meetings with the regime. Pyongyang and Washington are scheduled to meet on Thursday at the inter-Korean village of Panmunjom to discuss the return of the remains of U.S. soldiers who died during the Korean War. They've also agreed to hold working-level talks to discuss shutting down the North's missile engine testing facility at Dongchangli. President Trump also targeted China in a tweet, saying he hopes Beijing will not exert negative pressure on the North because of Washington's trade policies. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The UN representative for North Korean human rights was in Seoul for the past week to discuss how to make life better for the North's impoverished people. Now, he says major advancements on this issue could help North Korea become a part of the global community. Our Oh Soo-young sat down with this representative and files this report.
So amid the ongoing rapprochement between South and North Korea, the two governments have made a couple of agreements on cooperation and exchanges, and that includes the reunion of war-separated families. That's something you've been advocating for quite a long time. So what are your views on such developments, and do you see them as a positive sign in terms of improving North Korea's human rights situation?
First, let me commend both the government of South Korea and the government of North Korea for this important historical reapproachment. And this reapproachment includes, as you say, a number of situations which have an impact on human rights. You mentioned the reunion of separated families during the Korean War. I hope that the two governments establish regular bases for the families to establish contact, and it's not only one event. And there are some other elements in this, especially in the Panmunjom Declaration, that you can say that it has an impact on human rights. When this declaration speaks about prosperity, it is talking about economic, social, and cultural rights of people, especially living in North Korea. I hope at the same time, while commending this important rapprochement, that North Korea opens up into a dialogue on human rights with the United Nations. This is what we'd like to see from the United Nations.
Well, there's some concern that North Korea's human rights issue is being buried amid the ongoing dialogue between the two Koreas as well as the North and the US. It's undoubtedly a sensitive issue. What would you say is perhaps a good approach to raising this issue with the North?
That's a very good question. Sometimes the discussion on human rights is being put aside because people perceive that may risk or jeopardize any progress on the peace agenda, any progress on the denuclearization agenda, which are very important. That's not my view. I think that, on the contrary, to start a discussion and a dialogue on human rights with North Korea will reinforce any prospects of an agreement on the peace agenda, will bring credibility to the possibility of denuclearization, the Korean Peninsula as a whole.
So you were in Seoul this week to meet with South Korean officials here to talk about this sensitive issue. So are there any plans or any strategies on tackling North Korea's human rights situation?
We are in this situation where the question of timing is very important. It will require a strategy. It is not maybe wise to right away put on the table the more serious human rights situations in North Korea, like the situation in the Kwaliso, the political prison camps, or in regards to freedoms in North Korea. Those are discussions that might come in the future. At this time, in the context of these negotiations, my advice to the government of South Korea is that they need to develop a strategy to bring into the table, as soon as possible, the importance of opening also a dialogue on the human rights agenda. North Korea needs to show the international community that it's also ready to open up to their willingness to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. That will complete the picture about North Korea wanting to become a normal state.
Thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
The government of British Prime Minister Theresa May has been thrown into turmoil after two of her top ministers resigned over disagreements on Brexit. Boris Johnson resigned as Foreign Secretary on Monday, just hours after Sunday night's resignation of David Davis as Brexit Minister. Now, for more on this and other news around the world, we turn to our Aram at the News Center. Aram, at the best of times for Prime Minister May.
That's right, Simeon. Boris Johnson's resignation could not have come at a worse time for Mrs. May. It comes just 2 days ahead of a NATO summit, as well as an upcoming visit to the UK by US President Donald Trump. In his resignation letter, Johnson said the Prime Minister was leading the UK into what he called a semi-Brexit that would have leave Britain as a colony of the EU. He has been replaced by Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt. Meanwhile, the resignation of David Davis as Brexit Minister also leaves his replacement, Dominic Raab, just under a year to steer the UK out of the European Union. May expressed regret over the resignations, but insisted her Brexit plans were the way to go.
What we are proposing is challenging for the EU. It requires them to think again, to look beyond the positions they've taken so far and agree a new and fair balance of rights and obligations. Because that is the only way to meet our commitments to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland without damaging the constitutional integrity of the UK and while respecting the result of the referendum.
The resignations sparked immediate criticism from the opposition Labour Party.
We have a crisis in government, 2 Secretaries of State have resigned, and still we are no clearer on what future relationship with our nearest neighbours and biggest partners will look like. Workers and businesses deserve better than this. It is clear, Mr. Speaker, this government is not capable of securing a deal to protect the economy, jobs and living standards.
Meanwhile, the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, said he hoped the change in ministers could result in a change in policy. Turning over to Thailand now, where divers have rescued 4 more boys trapped inside a flooded cave in the north of the country. Monday's operation has now resulted in 8 boys being extracted, with 4 more boys and their football coach still inside. They are expected to be taken out later on Tuesday. The rescued boys have not been shown to the public yet and are in hospital, with officials saying they are safe. The journey through the narrow submerged passageways was said to have been easier due to a massive draining operation. Starbucks is joining a growing movement by companies to ditch plastic. The coffee shop giant announced Monday it would eliminate single-use plastic straws from all of its stores globally by the year 2020. Instead, it will use straws made from other materials and recyclable lids that are designed to not need straws. Starbucks joins the likes of McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts, which have made similar plans to be more environmentally friendly.
Little over a week has passed since the new 52-hour maximum working week system has been rolled out here in South Korea to better the work-life balance of millions of workers. Now, complying with the change has been a grind for some businesses, but how is this being received by the general public? Our Won Jung-hwan went out to check it out.
Businesses in South Korea with more than 300 employees are now prevented from making or allowing their employees to work more than 52 hours a week. The Moon Jae-in government changed the law as part of its efforts to ensure a healthier work-life balance for South Koreans, who work some of the longest hours in the OECD. The system may have only been in place for a week or so, but those affected by the new regulations say the atmosphere in their offices has become much more positive as a result.
As my company is encouraging us to work fewer hours, I feel less pressure coming to work late or going home early. It also makes it easier to take care of my kids as a working mother.
Since I can't be in the office more than 52 hours a week, my working style has changed. It has helped me balance my time at work much better than before.
Although this is only the early stage of a massive transition for the country, it seems more businesses are adopting to the new system without too much of a hitch. This is mainly because many large corporations were already applying the rules beforehand in preparation for the new system. Some office workers say the changes have made them more productive at work.
At 5:30 p.m. every weekday, an alarm rings and we shut down our computers. At first, I felt under pressure to get all my work done in the allotted time. But over the past few months, I've adapted and I work more efficiently now.
Since our PCs are shut off automatically when the workday is over, employees seem to spend less time smoking, drinking coffee, or chit-chatting with their colleagues.
But it's not all rosy. There's still anxiety and confusion in certain industries. For example, with most workers clocking out around the same time each evening, bus companies are under strain, trying to lay on more buses and find more drivers. Some industries also complain that the development of new products, for example, requires intense periods of long hours, and they say the new restrictions on working hours are going to undermine their business revenue. However, the changes have generally been rolled out smoothly at South Korea's biggest companies. The new system is proving more complicated for mid-sized firms that did not have the resources to implement the system in stages or on a trial basis first. Most experts say the biggest problems will pop up in the coming years when small firms that generally don't have the funds to hire extra people will be subject to the same strict rules. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
Now, this month marks exactly 30 years since South Korea first introduced its mobile communication technology. And with the country now at the forefront of efforts to commercialize the next giant leap forward, the lightning-fast 5G technology, we take a look back at how the mobile industry has been at the heart of South Korea's remarkable economic rise over the past 3 decades.
This is South Korea's first mobile phone, also known as the brick phone. Came out in 1988, exactly 30 years ago this month. It's huge and heavy, and it also came with a hefty price tag. The device alone was about $3,500, and it also had a service installation fee of $530. From that first generation of mobile communication technology, South Korea's mobile service has evolved fast. After the launch of the Code Division Multiple Access, or the second generation of mobile phones, the technology quickly gained momentum. That was followed by WCDMA, which supported 3G mobile services, and then the commercialization of 4G LTE. What started out with a clunky and overpriced handsets has now grown into an industry that completely redefined the country's economy and the world's telecommunications sector. From just 784 mobile phone plans in 1988, the number of subscribers grew to reach 50 million in 2010, surpassing the population of the country. And earlier this year, that figure was well over 64 million, as this all-in-one hand gadget keeps branching out and gaining new features.
We're looking to continue the role of the world's pioneer of telecommunication technology. We'll keep this momentum and start a new era of 5G technology that will not only connect mobile phones, but also other things like homes and vehicles, and even help deal with disasters.
The development of 5G is moving fast, with industry leaders planning commercial launches early next year, with the goal that the industry will provide up to 2% of Korea's annual GDP by 2025. Four nations, one dream. We are on the cusp of the 2018 World Cup semifinals, and it's an all-European affair in Russia. First up on Tuesday, early Wednesday morning Korea time, is France versus Belgium. The winner of that will play either England or Croatia in Sunday's final. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
What started out with 32 countries is now down to 4. And after Brazil and Uruguay were dumped out in the quarterfinals, the semifinal action is a totally European affair. There will only be one winner, but we'll know it'll be either France, Belgium, England, or Croatia holding the World Cup aloft come Sunday. The semifinals kick off Tuesday night local time with one of the most mouth-watering matchups of the tournament so far, France versus Belgium. Both countries have superb goalkeepers, tough defense, and lots of attacking flair. Les Bleus are led by stars including Paul Pogba, Antoine Griezmann, and the 19-year-old sensation Kylian Mbappe, while the Red Devils lineup showcases Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, and Eden Hazard. While bookmakers have France as the slight favorites, Belgium has a secret weapon, legendary French striker Thierry Henry, who's currently Belgium's assistant coach, and he'll be plotting to take down his own countrymen. On Wednesday, it's the turn of England and Croatia. For English fans, the hope is that football's coming home for the first time since 1966, the one and only time England has ever won the World Cup. But Croatia will be looking to rock the boat and book a place in their first ever World Cup final. Both sides would rather avoid it, but pundits say extra time and penalties could be on the cards, with Croatia knocking out Russia and Denmark on penalties on their road to the semis. England also needed penalties to overcome Colombia in the round of 16. The World Cup final will take place in Moscow on Sunday afternoon, local time. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning. The heat is building up. It's going to feel more like summer today. And the northern regions will have highs rising 3 to 4 degrees higher than on Monday, while Daegu and the surrounding regions will see highs soaring over by 10 degrees Celsius, hovering in the low 30s. In most parts, will be under cloudy or partly sunny skies, and Gyeongju will have a big jump in temperatures, getting up to 31 degrees Celsius by the afternoon. Seoul at 28 degrees, which is right around the seasonal average. And the heat will get stronger through Friday, and it's likely that some regions will have to deal with tropical nights as well. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
And that'll do it for this edition of Arirang News, but keep it tuned for more news updates coming up at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.